Please don't listen. I ask you this so that you don't hate me later, but I need you to stop listening to me right now. I need you to walk away. Don't look back, no matter how much I protest, no matter how much I beg. I need you to not listen to another word I say. I remember how it all started before I felt those clammy long fingers wrapping around my neck, before I would wake up just in time to sit recluse back into the shadows of my room. I remember a time when I thought insomnia was the worst thing in my life, when all I longed for was the sweet release of sleep. Those were the days before I became aware of it, and it became aware of me. It started the day my grandfather summoned me to his house. His voice was hoarse and raspy over the phone, as though he had been screaming so much that his vocal cords were shredded. He rambled incoherently about not getting sleep before ending the call saying, "I'm compelled to tell you of my horrible ordeal, despite my better judgments not to." And then he hung up. When I arrived, I was expecting to see his house darkened, boarded up due to his reclusive nature, but what I saw was quite the opposite. His windows were all open, and the house well lit with brilliant lumens, so that every window shined outwards like a great beacon, and every room he had plugged in fog lights that were so bright that my eyes ached and I had to shut them for several seconds each time I blinked. Even then, I could see the brightness through my clenched lids. The entire place was a chaotic orchestra of dissonant sounds, appliances, radios, and televisions, all blaring full blast, and it was as though certainly that dementia had finally come to take the old man. He took me to his kitchen, where I could see several coffee pots brewing simultaneously, and several more cups strewn about. His floor was littered with discarded bottles of stimulants and energy drinks, and I could tell by the jitters in his skin that he had been partaking of them in abundance. I asked what was wrong. I begged him to take him to the doctor, but he said no doctor could help him with the nightmare that had now been over him for some time. He sat me down, and with a dread look in his eyes, he told me to leave, for though compelled to tell me, he wished these words would not reach my ears. I again asked him what was wrong, what had happened, but when I reached out to comfort him, his head snapped to the side as he stared over at the open door of his pantry and the darkness within. "Did you see? Did you see?" he half screamed at me. And in that instant, I realized his mind was gone, and I was talking to a husk of a man. I told him, no, there was nothing there, and he simply laughed and said I would see it soon enough, that it liked to hide just out of the corner of your eyes, and when you tried to look at it directly, it would disappear again, hiding in the cracks between dimensions and the spaces between us and the void. He told me it was a lanky thing, with skin as black as shadow and arms impossibly long. Its fingers were like twisted branches, and when you would blink even for a moment, the fingers would wrap around your throat, slowly, like snakes. It could only attack you when you were not looking at it, you see. And it was one thing to blink, but another to sleep. For when your eyes would be closed for too long, you would awaken to feel your throat being constricted and crushed by gangly fingers impossibly strong. He said that it fed on the pain and it fed on the dread, but most of all, it fed on the desperation you felt at the end. I could see in his bloodshot eyes that he believed every word he said. It was as his jittery hand brought up another cup of coffee that I realized he had yet to blink. Not even once. I insisted that he come with me, that I could get him some help, but he simply laughed with a defeated look on his face. Then once more, he snapped his head up to the ceiling above me, with a disturbed shock in his eyes. To placate the old man, I looked up as well, so that I could assure him that there was nothing there. But I felt a sudden sense of extreme dread wash over me as I saw something gangly, black, and almost serpentine recluse into an impossibly small crack in the ceiling, and it was gone. In start, I jumped out of my chair, looking at the crack that the thing had sucked itself into. What the fuck was that? I screamed, and my grandfather gave another soft, sad chuckle, even as he popped a pill in his mouth. That, my boy, he said, then swallowed, is the thing that has kept me up for weeks. You see, I met another man that was on his last legs just as I, and he told me of a story similar to the story that I just told you. He informed me of this monster that hides just out of sight, and that he would be dead real soon. Then he warned me, with a dark chill in his eyes, for just as you are now aware of it, it is now aware of you. I left his brightly lit house in haste after that, and barely told him a goodbye. On my drive home, using the mirror, I repeatedly looked into the back seat of my car, half expecting some inhuman monstrosity to be looming behind me with fingers like snakes wrapping around my neck. However, I saw no such thing, and despite the feeling of extreme anxiety, I drove home without incident. Perhaps I had let my grandfather's condition get the better of me, and that due to the unnatural lighting conditions of his house and the sounds therein, that I had simply seen what my mind had wanted me to see. Oh, if only that was the case. If only. 3 days later, I received a call that my grandfather was dead. I rushed to the police station immediately and talked with the detectives that were on the case. It seems the meter reader had come to check on his house due to the abnormally high electrical bill, and peering in the window, found his contorted body on the couch. The detectives questioned me, asking if my grandfather had any enemies. I told them no. Then I feared that they might think me a suspect, so I avoided informing them about my visit days before. I inquired with them about the nature of his demise, and they said it was almost assuredly a homicide, that the cause of death seemed to be asphyxiation, and my blood ran cold. I asked them if it was caused by strangulation, and upon saying that, the detectives got a peculiar look upon their face. They stared for several seconds until I felt I had misspoke. Then one of them said that it was impossible, due to the state his neck was in, for any human to have such a vice-like grip, and it was most likely done by some yet-to-be-recovered noose or garrote. I thanked them for their time, then made my leave. As I took the elevator down, I could feel that my stomach was sinking with each floor. Could he have been telling the truth? Could he really have been stalked by some impossible entity, stalking him just beyond the shadows? I shut my eyes, rubbing them, and that's when I first felt it. Like several snakes slithering around my neck. I let out a yelp and opened my eyes, and in an instant I saw through the reflection of the elevator door something impossibly lanky and tall release its hands from my neck and suck into itself and disappear. I spun around in shock, but found nothing there, and I felt my heart pounding with ferocity. That's when I realized that I had become the next target. And like my grandfather, nobody would believe me. That was several weeks back now, and the days have all melded together due to lack of sleep. My apartment is littered with empty cans of energy drinks, pills, both legal and not, and eye drops to abate the stinging sensation of my now non-blinking eyes. The place is a cacophony of sound from my computers, radios, and televisions, as well as the percolation of several coffee pots going in tandem. My neighbors bang on the floor, screaming at me to stop all that noise, but I welcome their yells just the same. Anything to keep me awake. I see it all the time now. When my eyes clench for a yawn, I see it sliding across the ceiling like a shadowy serpent, its gangly fingers reaching out towards my neck, just about to reach me, only to suck back into a vent when I once more open my eyes. I feel it creeping up behind me, in the hall, in the bathroom, and even when I lean up against the wall, for it doesn't fill up space like you or I. I can't let my guards down for even a moment. I quit my job. I quit my girl. I quit everything. For now, only survival is my focus. The landlord says they will evict me once they have the court order. But I know now I will not last that long. The last time I fell asleep, I dreamed my throat was having hot coals shoved into it to the point that I tried to scream, but could only gurgle up blood. When I finally awoke, I saw the impossibly lanky thing on top of me, with fingers like gnarled branches around my neck, gripping tightly. One moment it was there, the next it simply disappeared, hiding back in the crack between dimensions that it resides. I coughed up blood for several days after that, and resolved myself not to fall asleep again, using the rope-like bruises I saw around my neck as a constant reminder to stay steadfast. But I'm so tired now. So very, very tired. It never abates. It never sleeps. It is always there. It always waits for its next chance to strike. The pills have no effect now, and no amount of caffeine seems to help me with my drooping eyes, that even now feel like great anchors longing to fall down. My hallucinations mix in with the creature's attacks and stalkings, to the point that I don't know what is real or what is not. I long to have insomnia. I long to not need to blink. But my body grows weaker with every hour, and all I want is sleep. I realize now that it makes you share its story, for that is how it finds its new host. It uses your weakened mind to motivate you to share your demise with another, so that it can continue on the chain perpetually. I told you at the start to walk away, to please not listen, but you stayed anyway. It matters not if you hate me, for my exhaustion is at its peak, and even now, as my eyes droop and become heavy with sleep, I can feel its fingers wrapping around my neck in a nightmarish grip. I will be dead soon, and so too shall you, for just as you are now aware of it, it is now aware of you.